Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another developer interview with Wuthering Waves, except this time it's going to be by pocketgamer.biz, a very reputable news site for, well, as you can probably imagine, games that are played from a device that might fit in your pocket. And so this is a very, very, very interesting interview because it focuses on story quality. And of course, the massive amount of improvement that Wuthering Waves has made since its debut version back in 1.0 to the massive peak that it's gone to with version 3.1. We are taking a bit of a story break right now, at least from the main narrative that has most people's attention, but I'm pretty sure it's going to pick back up in version 3.3, where we've got news that Hiyuki over here, right? All you need to read is this line. The collective pursues what is right, but your quest to save the one you hold dear, that I understand. And she's supposed to be the debut banner for the anniversary. That's going to be in version 3.3, and we all kind of know how popular this unit's going to be. So naturally, we can all assume that the story is going to be picking right back up with something very, very, very nuts, maybe a showdown with good old Aleph 1, that bastard over there. And what better time for us to do a bit of a breakdown of this article over here to see what exactly is going through the developers' heads. Developing Wuthering Waves. Every edition requires months or longer to meet our quality standards. The Kuro Games team talks narrative foundations, engagement, version 3.0, and beyond. With the article written by good old Aaron Assel over here, released just yesterday. And we got Sagrika, I don't know why they decided to advertise her. Go put Amith or something instead, you bums. Anyways, Wuthering Waves launched its version 3.0 update in December 2025, and the focus of this talk is about how they discuss development timelines, collabs, that's another big part of this one, and the importance of a compelling narrative. Kuro Games' open-world gacha game, Wuthering Waves, launched its major version 3.0 update in December and has continued rolling out new features and content since, as the hit game serves closer and closer towards its second anniversary this May. So I'm not exactly sure if the team over here is fully aware, but I think that the anniversary is actually supposed to be at some point in April. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's actually 30 plus days until, yeah, maybe it actually is in May. Yeah, 3.2 is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I feel like it's on May 23rd, the end of April, April 29th, May 24th. Oh. The anniversary patch is going to start in April, but the actual anniversary is going to be on May 23rd. You're totally right over there. Yeah, sorry. The patch versus the actual anniversary date. That's where we got a little bit confused. So don't get traumatized by this over here. You're gonna have your Hiyuki earlier than you thought. Version 3.0 introduced a new arc and a setting in Lahai Roy, a hot underground haven with its own unique ecosystem. I don't know why they're using the word hot when it's covered in fucking snow. Anyways, as fans continue to explore this new region, we speak with the team at Kuro Games about the latest big changes, collabs, and the narrative direction, and how they keep players engaged long term. So naturally, I feel like throughout this article, we're gonna get a pretty big exposure as to what some of the future plans are, news about future collaborations, and of course, what we're actually going to be seeing in-game. As Wuthering Waves is a long-term live service game, our goal is to consistently deliver fresh, high-quality content to our players. 3.0 and 3.1 are key milestones in the long-term roadmap. The team begins. I feel like I know the reason for why they decided not to bundle 3.2 into here. Because it's pretty clear that this patch, even with the live stream views, the content, the overall engagement, this is what I can just show you on my end. I have not gotten engagement like the engagement that you're seeing for this drip marketing video for Hiyuki in almost a month. Yeah, I think the last time I got engagement like this was for content surrounding Amith. And the unfortunate realization that I think most people can have from just the, overall viewership of Wuwa across the past, since 3.2 launched, is that it hasn't really been that particularly popular for most players. This is my Sagrika guide. This is the second best performing Sagrika guide on YouTube. And it has 22k views. So it's I'm not going to be out here pretending that she was this absolute bombshell that completely broke the space. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about her. And I guess Kuro Games doesn't either. In these two recent versions, we introduced over 10 hours of brand new main story content, very good content, at least in 3.1, and added over 60 square kilometers of explorable areas, including 15 distinct ecological sub-regions. Alongside the new map, we also introduced around 30 new monsters and 17 brand new echoes, ensuring that every inch of the world feels fresh to explore. I think it's pretty fair to say that Lahai Roi has been a very interesting step in terms of the development, and I feel like one of the things and one of the opinions that I've had is that the setting isn't actually just generally that popular. Sci-fi, as you can see over here from the design of Mornier, I feel like sci-fi is something that isn't nearly as popular as fantasy. You can kind of just take a look at pretty much every single, every single bit of, like, media out there, especially when it comes to games, right? Fantasy, Rinascita, all of the stuff that was, like, kind of in there was generally a lot more well-received than the stuff that we've been getting in Lahai Roi. I'm just going to be entirely real with you. Yes, there are a lot of sci-fi IPs that are super popular, all of that stuff, but it's very fair to say that it's a... Well, I mean, just look at, like, what's the most popular MMORPG game? World of Warcraft. Whenever you look at, like, the most popular category for everything, it's never really sci-fi. And I think Kuro Games understood that. And that's why my personal take is that I don't think Lahai Roi is going to be very long. The vibe that I get from Hiyuki's statement over here, the collective pursues what is right, but your quest to save the one you hold dear, that I understand. She has, like, a grudge against Aleph 1. There's been, like, lore talks, lore reveals from some, like, conversations with the NPCs that, like, she actually has a history with that Threnodian. And my personal take is that 3.3 is going to be, like, the final arc of the Lahai Roi chapter, and then in 3.4, we're going to be going somewhere else. And I think a lot of people can understand that take as well, especially when you consider the fact that Amith is currently, like, being held hostage by Aleph 1, and our next story goal is to go save her. And that would probably make a lot of sense for us to go deal with that Threnodian and then go move on, because the issue in Lahai Roi would then be settled. Because what did we do when it comes to Rinascita? We basically concluded the Rinascita arc in 2.2 when we saved Cardathia. And then Cardathia was available in 2.4 when we went to Septimon. Essentially, still in Rinascita, but it's basically the next region, right? So I kind of feel like they're going to do a very, very similar thing. Because I don't think that they're going to drag on this whole Aleph 1 thing super far. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to me. That's my personal take on where I think it's going to go. I think they're going to have a bit of a tonal shift midway through the 3.x arc. Versions, revisions, and collaborations. And this is where stuff is going to get a little bit interesting. Kuro Games is no stranger to updates and enhancements, with revisions key to WuWa's success since the beginning. Between its first CBT and the full release on the 23rd, and that's when the actual anniversary is going to happen, the title saw changes to its cinematics and quests, as well as a rewrite of pretty much all of its story. These changes paid off almost immediately, as the game sailed past 100 million in estimated mobile revenue in under 2 months and surpassed 300 million in its first year, at least according to App Magic. And we also have supplementary glue from Tencent themselves in their annual earnings report that Wuthering Waves as a whole made more than 550 million USD just in 2025 alone. Essentially, 2025 started with 2.0 and ended with, 2.8 or the start of Lahai Roi. So, yeah, that seems to really indicate, right, that a lot of the spending for the game isn't actually happening on mobile, because let's be entirely real here. People spend on the platform that they play on. And most people probably are playing Wuthering Waves on the PC, the console, and not necessarily their phone, because the game just feels way fucking better when you're not playing on the phone. Yeah, because I'm just going to be real here. Like, it's, you know what I mean. Today, the team continues to deliver new content with wave-like pacing, often lasting up to 6 weeks before the next major update, pretty much like every single other gacha game. I'm surprised that they didn't really mention others. The aim is to give players enough time to fully experience and updates maps and stories without feeling rushed. I'm gonna be real over here. I feel like I'm personally a player that isn't really too big on exploration anymore. And I feel like that's one of the biggest issues that Kuro Games is going to run into, is the level of exploration fatigue, not necessarily being their fault, but simply due to the fact that the game's going to have a lot of former Genshin Impacto players. And what I mean by that is that Hoyo versus exploration is undeniably so dog shit it's unbelievable. And after having gone through potentially years of that and then switching over to Wuwa, it's been good, right? That they've been making a lot of new forays with things like the bike, things like flying and Ridacida and all of that. But you're still going to have like the latent fatigue. It's almost like some sort of like trauma from the bullshit that Hoyoverse was having you do for, well, Genshin launched in 2020 and Wuwa launched in 2024. That's a long amount of potential time for players like this to get their shit cooked, while at the same time providing the development team with sufficient time to polish the next update. I think a good way for Kuro to really balance it out, right, is having more areas like, I think somebody mentioned it in chat, like the Alvarado Vault or the Fabricatorium from 2.5. Those areas are a lot more sort of like on the rails in terms of like how their exploration goes. There's like not actually a bunch of like climbable areas and stuff. And it does feel like, you know, it's kind of just like more condensed. But that's what they typically do in some of like their smaller updates, more of like their filler updates, having like a bit more of like linear exploration just to make it feel like it's more of like a one and done deal while still giving a bit of like an enriching story experience. I'm not saying make every new area like that, but having some variety where it's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to have to like go explore every single like nook, cranny, butthole of this new place, because there's plenty of that to do in 2.0, and there's plenty, if not more of that to do in 3.0. It's kind of like an exploration break just to ensure, right, that there's enough variety throughout and not just like a massive new area every single time. One region that I actually dislike, that I think burnt me out with Wuthering Waves, was Septimont, introduced in 2.4. I don't like Septimont's exploration. It's too fucking big, and there's not enough stuff there. You can actually, in Septimont, just go flying for like 2 minutes and see one interactable on the map. It's too fucking big. It looks great, but it's empty. And that's what I think is sort of like a design mistake that they should really avoid in the future. Anything that's like 2.4. Because it was kind of, at least in my opinion, a bit of a mistake. Version 2.8, right, lasted 5 weeks and was followed by 3.0 on December 25th. I feel like 3.2 should have been 5 weeks as well, but maybe they know better than me. Version 3.1 came 6 weeks later, and on February 5th, 3.2 was just, okay, yeah, great on the timelines. Like, this is what I mean. 3.2 is kind of like a low content patch. It's arguably one of the smallest patches that we've had. I think 2.8 might actually be considered bigger than 3.2. And so I'm just like a little bit surprised that it has the full duration of 6 weeks. Maybe it actually doesn't, and we're going to be in for like a bit of a surprise. The anniversary patch is going to be pushed up a bit. But yeah, 3.2 does feel like it should have been only 5 weeks as well. Maybe they need more time, though, because they're planning something massive, right? Because they're planning something massive. Maybe they actually do need that extra week to make sure that the anniversary does land well. We don't push out content solely to meet specific marketing windows. Instead, we stick to a consistent long-term rhythm of development, the team states. Yeah, I mean, I think the only real like sort of like scheduling hiccup they had was like shortening 1.1.0 to like push up Yinlin's banner early or something like that. Beyond that, it has been pretty smooth and pretty consistent. Every edition requires months or longer to meet our quality standards. This wave-like rhythm is ultimately about finding the optimal balance between giving players time to absorb the content and the team's time to refine it, so that every update is worth anticipating and every wait is worthwhile. I think that's pretty fair to say, especially because when you understand that we're gonna have some of like the best patches ever in terms of like content and story, I'm in the boat that 3.1 is likely the best update that the game has ever had. And the reason why I say that is because it had two incredible story parts, two incredible story segments to it, and a fuck ton of events. And by that fuck ton of events, I meant like actually fun ones. I don't think 3.1 had any events that where you like go into them, you're kind of just like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Or I don't really know like why I'm even like, or I don't like, it feels like a chore. I actually went ahead and kind of like, not rushed, but I did all the events in the last week of 3.1. And that was like the most worthwhile experience I've had when it comes to like leaving events towards the end. Because all of them were good. I didn't have a single one where I was just like, oh man, or maybe there was like that one like 2D board one where you had to like move like the deer and shit. That one was kind of bad, but that took like 3 minutes to do. Everything else beyond that, like weird fucking sheep thing where you were like trying to direct it out, they were fine. Among the new features in version 3.0 and beyond, the Wuthering Waves team highlights the motorcycle as its new take on open world exploration. This allows players to boost, drift, and jump through Lehigh Roy and has the extra benefit of collaboration potential with other brands. I think that the motorcycle, outside of like the weird role it plays in like certain cutscenes where it like drives for you, and I'm kind of just like, all right, well, I personally, the part that I hate the most about the motorcycle is when like it like plays you in the animation where like the little guns like make like a trail for you, and then you just like, it just keeps happening. Like, I swear to God, it happened like 4 times in 3.1, where like the ice guns like make like a loop for you, and then you start going like upside down and stuff like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. It happens a lot in like the world exploration. It happens a couple of times in the story. You go on like these loop-de-loops and stuff like that. It also gets stuck on like the smallest shit sometimes, and so you gotta like boost and like try to be precise with it can get a little bit frustrating. But they're probably going to be implementing more and more quality of life, and I think they already did in 3.2. It not only provides the players a new way to traverse the map, but also through crossover designs for franchises such as Sonic the Hedgehog and the Persona series, has become a bridge to connecting different cultural experiences, the team shares. So I think a lot of people have been fans of the fact that you can like go ahead, go on the bike, put on all your different stickers, and play like all these different collab songs. I'm just hoping that the motorcycle isn't like the end of the collabs, where it's like, oh, because we're able to like weave in all these different franchises, we're not really going to take it to the next level over here, kind of on the level of the Cyberpunk collab, which is supposed to be coming up, where people estimate, right, there are going to be like playable characters, there are going to be like entirely new kits to go for, a unique story where maybe we go to Night City and stuff like that. People really want those. And I'm personally of the mindset that we definitely need like those bigger collabs. And I think now is the perfect time for Wuthering Waves to start exploring that. Because A, we've got like Chisa, good old Dimension Cutter over here. We've got, you know, Sonarospheres and stuff that people can generate with like the Black Shores. There's a lot of already like lore relevant reasons for stuff like this to occur. And none of the stuff is going to, like, not make sense. Which I feel like is one of the barriers for other IPs that don't necessarily have this sci-fi element to them. And Wuthering Waves, obviously, is a lot more scientific than a lot of franchises that are out there right now. Who wouldn't want to speed into the sunset on a motorcycle covered with Joker stickers while blasting Life Will Change? Somebody that doesn't play Persona. Our players were pleasantly surprised by the collab, and we received lots of positive feedback. We'll continue exploring crossover collaborations with more franchises in the future. I never played Persona 5, so I personally have not been a fan of the motorcycle collabs. I haven't really given a shit about them because I don't play those fucking games. And so naturally, I feel like it's going to be pretty essential for Kuro Games to go ahead and discover more and more of like the franchises, right, that are a bit more uniform across their player base. Like, bro, I'm gonna be real here, right? Get the Expedition 33 collab. Put some Frenchmen. Something like that. Get, I don't know. Maybe do some of the stuff that, like, HSR was doing when they were advertising, Planet Arcadia. Get your Mikus or some shit like that. Get Witcher. Hey, put Ciri in the game. Yo, put Geralt in the game. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. There's, I feel like, a lot that could, like, happen over here where I feel like the Wuthering Waves player base is a little bit older on average. Think about all the different sort of, like, nostalgia collabs that can exist out there. I don't know, like, get the fucking, like, rekindle the first light, right? Get the Elden Ring, right? God of War, stuff like that. There's so much that I feel like DMC, put Virgil in the fucking game. There's so much Solid Snake, right? There's so much stuff that this audience is going to be a lot more uniformly supportive of than I feel like Sonic the fucking Hedgehog and Persona. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, put Armstrong, Raiden. It's stuff like that. But like fucking Persona, bro? Shit's lame in comparison. Let's be real here. 6 crossover motorcycle designs or motorcycle sticker designs were available for free during version 3.0, and the team hopes this showcases the flexibility of Wuwa's world. In the near future, a collab is planned with Cyberpunk Edgerunners. And I feel like this has potential. This Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab. It has potential to be the best collab in the history of gacha games. And I'm pretty sure there is a very, very large expectation that's being put on Kuro Games because of how dog shit HSR's Fate collab was. Good lord. HSR's Fate Stay Night Unlimited Bladeworks collab was the worst piece of dog shit that I feel like anyone in the space has ever seen in their fucking lives. And I don't think anyone gives Hoyoverse any excuse at all for how fucking bad it was. And I think it single-handedly killed Fate, and also it was like a murder-suicide by Hoyoverse. It killed HSR, and then it also killed the Fate franchise at the same time. Absolute fucking disaster. Cash grab. Outside the motorcycle, recent updates have brought refinements, UI changes, and quality of life updates like resource cleanup. I think it only deletes like 2 gigabytes. They got to do more with that. Ensuring consistency across platforms has always been a key focus for Kuro Games, especially in the context of performance and optimization. I think that just means that whatever the fuck they did in Star Torch Academy, they should just not do that ever again. Star Torch Academy is like my most hated area in Wuthering Waves. Because I don't know what it is, I just feel like I don't want to go there because it's so fucking laggy. Yeah, I despise any time there's a quest marker there. I despise any time when I need to go visit Nana for Ascension materials. I despise any time that an event begins there because it just feels like a giant bug. I don't think anyone likes Star Torch Academy. I'm out here. I get like 100 FPS in the 3.1 new area above Lahai Roy. Above Star Torch in the snowy region. I get like 100 plus. And then in Star Torch, I'm like down to like 20, bro. It's a fucking disaster. Low key, just delete it from the game, and I think it would help. It's like DJing from Arknight's Enfield. Yeah, that stupid fucking shit where all you do is stupid fucking things and just can't stop thinking about how stupid it is. After a major update, what comes next? Many gacha RPGs introduce a new major version update once per year, with iterative updates expanding on a new location or setting over the months that follow. Yeah, they're spot on over here. Just think about, well, HSR with Plain Arcadia, the PNG, Genshin Impact with Natland, the piece of garbage friendship region, and whatever the fuck they're doing in Nod Cry, and then ZZZ with Wi-Fi Peninsula. For some, this means the year's biggest spending spike comes during that major update, and a gradual decline follows until the next big version. This is how Wuthering Waves has actually, well, broken the mold over here. Wuwa might be one of the first games, at least out of like the big gacha games, that's decided to split up their numerical versions by having 2 different regions. That started in 2.0. Where in 2.0, we introduced Ridacida, and then in 2.4, we went to Septimon. Based off of the fact that they did that, that's why I'm saying I think the Lahai Roy story is going to be concluded, or at least put on like a good break at the end of 3.3. And then we're going to go to a secondary region in 3.4, because that's literally what fucking happened in version 2.0. It would be kind of weird if they didn't. In Wuthering Waves' case, version 2.0 debuted in January 2025 and triggered a stark rise. Wait, let me go ahead and see what is this link. Wuthering Waves rides the wave to 250 million after version 2.0's major comeback. Version 2.0 triggered a 178% spending surge on release day, followed by a 169% boost with version 2.0. Oh, that's kind of crazy. Anyways, it estimated player spending at the time. Rather than declining shortly thereafter, it actually sustained growth until June 2025, the game's third highest grossing month on mobile ever. And well, in June 2025, Cardathea released, and Solon confirmed that it was their highest revenue month ever, that it beat 2.0. So again, that's just more evidence that Wuthering Waves has a lot more spending on basically every single fucking platform other than mobile. And so whenever you see those mobile revenue reports by all of those naysaying doomer Hoyo shills, all the proof that you kind of need is that no, mobile doesn't actually drive a majority of this game's revenue. It's a very small slice of the pie. Fast forwarding to version 3.0 in December, again, this latest major update has introduced plenty of fresh content with its new region, events, and story arc. Kuro confirms that on the day version 3.0 launched, Wuthering Waves hit the top rankings on iOS revenue charts across multiple global regions and smashed its concurrent record on Steam. We ask how Wuthering Waves plans to once again keep momentum after this comeback through version 3.1, 3.2, and beyond. Instead of calling version 3.0 a comeback, we prefer to see it as a continuation or even a surpassing of the solid momentum achieved by our 2.x version, the team clarifies. I'm personally of the boat that this goal over here by Kuro might be a little bit too ambitious. Because what I said before, I think, is kind of like ringing true in that sci-fi in particular is never really going to have the level of sway that, let's be real here, fantasy is going to have. Why do you think this Hiyuki hype is so massive? Why do you think this is probably going to be one of the most popular drip marketings and probably a new record breaker for revenue? Because she's like, bro, this is like the traditional like fantasy magic, like ice, katana, samurai, crazy, like Miko thing. Why do you think she's so much more popular, right, than any of the other drip marketings we've had before in the history of the game? Because this is kind of like the vibe that people are going for, right? This is kind of like the vibe that, like, gacha itself, most gacha IPs originate from, like, fantasy to that kind of degree. And so naturally, I think that we're going to take a big step back from the sci-fi sort of tone, I would imagine, once we move past 3.3. Because, bro, one of the big additions we had was a gigantic fucking Gundam that in 3.1. That was like the addition to the roster. Somebody who summons a giant Gundam. I think we've kind of hit the peak there when it comes to this sort of thematic. Expanding on that continuation, Kuro Games notes how version 3.1 introduced plenty for exploration enthusiasts, with new Frostlands added in contrast to Lahai Roy's Star Torch Academy from 3.0. Again, players can freely explore the area while riding their new motorcycles. I actually like 3.1 way more than 3.0. Yeah, 3.1 to me, it does kind of seem like a little bit of like a frozen wasteland at first, but it has like that really cool thing where you can like open up the air vents and then actually basically go flying on your motorcycle. And it's so big and it's so massive that you can have fun just like driving around there. As opposed to Lahai Roy, where some of the areas can be like so tight in terms of like where you need to go. You'll be blocked by trees and stuff. Yeah, there's none of that shit out there in like the frozen wastelands. The update also focused on narrative and received very positive feedback from players worldwide. A payoff after the writing staff focused on emotional impact. I think most people have the take that version 3.1 is without a doubt the best story in gacha history. Yeah, I don't think that there is anyone out there who can even dispute that take. It takes pretty much every single modern gacha, all the bullshit that they're doing, and just takes a hot steamy dump all over it. And I feel like Wuthering Waves 3.1 is literally like what killed Zenless Zone Zero. I don't think anyone can even try to take the ZZZ writers even slightly seriously after WoWow 3.1, and they just think that the entire team is just a fucking joke. 1,000,000% a joke. Hoyoverse, as a whole, is kind of just seen as a fucking joke. It's said that the writers, environmental designers, and voice actors in the cinematics team all repeatedly polished every detail of the update. I mean, and I guess this is like kind of like all the evidence you need, right? We can just go over to the official Wuthering Waves page itself and just go ahead and take a look at one cutscene from that quest that kind of just is the most wild shit ever.
And the High Roy will survive.
I'm at.
And we will find each other in the Frostlands.
I think people will remember this cutscene, or at least this story arc, for a very long time. I would not be surprised if it just gets referenced for like a decade afterwards. And the biggest thing is the incredible work done by all of the VAs in all of the languages. Do you ever hear ENVAs pop off like that? Then the MC dies too. This is the cliffhanger that we've been left on since 3.1's first half ended. We essentially see this character, Ivan. She sacrifices herself to save us, to save the entire region. And they have just let her be in limbo for like 60 plus days. What gacha game is willing to take a risk like that to let, right, one of the most popular characters in the history of the game, let people think that she died or isn't coming back for like 60 fucking days? Could it be ZZZ? Could it be Genshin? Could it be HSR? Hoyo could never. Because you want to know what would have happened if we had just saved her in this patch? The story wouldn't have had as much of an impact. Something like that happened in HSR? Oh, did it? Because HSR players would have taken any opportunity to say that Wuwa was copying HSR if that was the case. Did something like this happen in HSR? Yeah, I don't think so.
I hope to make you proud. I hope I haven't let you down.
And then this character just goes ahead and, like, you just see her, she dies, bro. That's it. That's how it ends. She just dies. On the patch with her debut banner. They're talking about Cyrene. How about you guys talk about how you should shut the fuck... Get that shit out of here. It's written by fucking Xiao Ji. That dude is fueled by, like, his own fucking farts and, like, half-digested Slim Jims that he, like, slurps out of Dewey's mouth. Bro, that guy is so trash at writing, it's fucking unreal. What are you even doing talking about Cyrene in this conversation? It said that the writers, environmental designers, voice actors, and the cinematics team all repeatedly polished every... Yeah, you can clearly fucking see that's what happened. Version 3.1's additions indeed appear to have built upon prior momentum. Magic estimates point to February 2026 as Wuthering Waves' second most lucrative month ever on mobile, with an estimated 46.3 million generated, second only to the game's first full month in June 2024. Though no specific key performance indicators, KPIs, are confirmed by Kuro, the team acknowledges a new revenue peak brought by version 3.1. Oh, are they talking about Firefly? Yeah, if you're comparing Firefly to this shit, yeah, her death where she transforms into dream particles, and you know everything's in a dream, so she didn't actually die. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Narratively, 3.1 was undoubtedly an all-out effort for us. We've seen Ima's storyline strongly resonate with players, and this response continues to motivate us to give our very best. So like I said before, I think they are cooking up something crazy for version 3.3. I think that's why 3.2 is going to end up being a full 6-week update, even though it probably really shouldn't be if we're thinking about the scope of what's in the patch, because we got her. And it's pretty obvious that we're getting a lot of story exposure about her in the second half of version 3.2, and that's probably going to directly lead into one of the most banger story finales we've ever seen in the history of Gacha. They've got a lot of expectations put on them. Kuro Games over here. And so the hope is that they are going to deliver, but I don't think anyone doubts them delivering, especially after we've seen what happened in version 3.1. The value of the story. Discussing story, Kuro Games revealed its 3-layered structure, which feeds into its overall narrative appeal. Intuitive appeal, story logic, and core expression. Oh boy, using fancy words over here, aren't you guys? The intuitive foundational level means players should get a sense of the characters by how they move and operate, even if the user chooses to skip cutscenes. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who actively skips Wuthering Waves cutscenes nowadays. It's kind of like known as like the gold standard of. Nobody really skips the story because the story is actually very pleasant to sit through. Meanwhile, foreshadowing and story logic should prove a solid framework for emotional impact. And the deepest layer, core expression, aims to embed profound themes into story details for sharp-eyed players. I think the only real example that you need of profound themes is this one over here.
A singer?
We got Imith over here, right? She's literally on her deathbed, making the ultimate sacrifice to save Lahai Roy, and this is a flashback.
But still. Wish I didn't have to leave you.
As she resonates with a giant Gundam. Because this is supposed to be the main character's daughter.
What kind of person do you want me to be when I grow up? A teacher? A scientist? A singer? Which should I choose? Maybe a model? Oh, a pastry chef? Oh, what about an animal caretaker? What would make you proud?
Imith,
I'm smiling looking at chat.
my only wish for you is that you live a happy life.
And then they show a flashback to this chair. This is where Imith dies in the story to go save the world. So it directly contrasts with what the main character is saying over here. My only wish is that you live a happy life. Because this is where she decides to sacrifice herself to go save the world. Because that's what Rover's job is. So she actually ends up doing exactly what their parent ends up doing, which is obviously not their actual wish.
I see.
And notice, right?
I see.
They use like the adult voice for the child here.
And you? What's your wish for me?
I wish that in your long, long life, you never forget how to feel the sorrow and the joy.
And remember, this is her flashback after she's basically committing to dying. To let that wish happen.
To share this final journey with you makes me so happy.
And that's the end. That is the end. And then you just basically do not see, you don't really see Imith ever again. That is what they put into the story. And let's be entirely real here. Unless you're like an orphan from like a family of like orphans, right? That's gonna resonate. Family of orphans, that doesn't even make sense, right? That's basic. That scene is gonna resonate with pretty much every single person out there. And so I don't even think the word sharp-eyed players is even like that relevant over here. Much of what played out in version 3.1 was foreshadowed in 3.0 and even 2.8. One of the big things about this 3.1 quest is that it basically made a lot of the past stories that might have been viewed as like not really as consequential feel way more important because of all of the stuff that ended up occurring. And that's where like the continuity, right, really plays in. And then it puts a lot more emphasis on, oh shit, maybe in the future, right? Maybe in the future, if a story doesn't seem like it's that wild right now, maybe it's going to have way more implications later down the road. And that's kind of like the new expectation that has been that's been set forth. And probably it could be relevant to what's happening in version 3.2 right now, a story that not a lot of people are huge fans about. This helped create a sense of continuity, absolutely. The story is the main highlight for this update. The new Resonator, Amith, holds a secret crucial to the survival of the High Roy, and as players may note, shares a deep connection with the protagonist. Okay, so they're just not spoiling, but I did. As the story of... Okay, we're just going to skip this one, because well, you already know what fucking happened, because, well, if you didn't do the 3.1 story by now, go fuck yourself. Rover's characterization is a prime example of our character creation philosophy. When designing Rover's action logic, we focused heavily on creating emotional resonance with players. Our goal is for each choice Rover makes to evoke genuine feelings and make the players wonder what they would do in Rover's place. That makes sense. Yeah, because what's one thing we do? Remember that scene that I just showed you before where this is Rover descending into a lake that literally kills them. You see all this shit coming out, this yellow shit coming out of our hands? Yeah, those are his frequencies, or basically, like, if you lose all your frequencies, you die. That's why it looks like we're dying here. So Rover literally starts the process of them dying to go try to stop her from doing what she's doing. And, well, let's be entirely honest over here. There's a reason why so many people hate Aleph 1 right now, and they're trying to go, like, beat his ass. And, like, why there's so little hype for the 3.2 story. Because everyone feels like they've been left on the craziest cliffhanger ever, and they want to just go resolve this right now. But that's why patience is a virtue, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I'm saying I think Kuro's really fucking cooking over here. Kuro Games also wants to make it easy for prospective new players to jump into this adventure anytime, anywhere. As many newcomers previously complained about being unable to catch up with the latest story right off the bat, feedback led to a mechanic called Express Routes, designed to allow players to jump to story content from version 2.0 and now forward into version 3.0. Kuro Games gathers feedback through social listening, customer service feedback channels, and in-game surveys, and more. And also my videos. Yep, I know there's a Kuro employee that's watching all of my shit. Yep, I know you're out there. Player feedback is extremely important to us. Wuthering Waves is a long-term live service game, which means that instead of us spoon-feeding the content to our players, we're actually writing the game's history with them. The stronger our mutual understanding, the further we can go together. And I'm pretty sure everybody is on board with what's happening in the game, at least story-wise right now. And version 3.3, I think, is going to break records in terms of, like, player count, in terms of engagement, in terms of, like, spending, all of that. I would put money on it at this point. Probably also going to break, like, the live stream viewership record and all that shit, too. Wuthering Waves is a game meant to operate for many years. All feedback we received, whether positive or negative, is valuable for us, but we won't be trapped in the past. So they're constantly looking for more ways to improve in the future. Sounds like Kuro Games. In under 2 years, Wuwa has helped Kuro Games accrue accolades like the Game Awards Players Voice Award. Yeah, that really pissed a lot of people off. Google Play's Best Ongoing Game Award. Oh, that also pissed a lot of people off. And the Sony Partner Award. Oh, that pissed a lot of other people off. And a spot among PocketGamer.biz's top 50 mobile game makers in 2024. Yeah, I feel like that's not really a hard one to get. The team is excited by growing recognition in the industry, but believes it can always do better. I guess the one thing that they really need to improve on is the optics of the anniversary, because I think that's like the biggest blunder, at least like publicly, that Kuro has had. And, well, there's a lot of expectations that this anniversary, especially with the release of this unit, is going to be a lot better than the prior one. So, yeah, maybe that's another reason why 3.2 was such a long patch. The most important lesson we've learned is to persist in doing what should be done. A simple concept, but it requires tremendous determination to execute. The needs of users and the industry are constantly changing, so we must always stay flexible and consider what we should be doing at each moment. Only then can we grow and move forward with our players. I think that the timing of this article, knowing that we're in the middle of version 3.2, the fact it's not really talking about 3.2 that much, and it's also right before the release of Hiyuki's drip marketing, is pretty intentional, right? And I think it's meant to further increase the amount of hype that we're going to have moving forward when it comes to the game. And there's a reason why Hiyuki already has like her own little quest that's going to be arriving in the second half of the patch to sort of like pave the way for her actual release. This is probably going to be, like I said before, the biggest patch in the history of the game, story-wise, content-wise, rewards-wise, kit animation, character quality-wise, all of that. And all I kind of like foresee from here on out is really, really good things for the game. And when you know that the entire gacha space right now is in an absolute slumber, with titles like Arknight's Enfield, bro, Enfield is the biggest Wuthering Waves advertisement I've ever fucking seen. That game is so shit, it's unbelievable. I've never seen a game so bad in my fucking life. Then you have ZZZ coming off the Angels and the developers of Delusion. Bro, are they dumb? And then you have HSR with Plan Arcadia being actually like, it's the joke of the Plan Arcadia is like the region of elation, but it's actually just a giant fucking joke itself because it's so fucking bad. And then you got none other than Genshin Impact, where nobody's even talking about the game because like their latest live stream, bro, they just like took Hyacinth, a character from HSR, and then just made her chubby and put it in this game. Bro, what is this fucking shit? What is this fucking, what the fuck is this? This looks like the most filler of the filler garbage I've ever seen in my fucking life. I already know this shit is gonna be trash. She's broken? Great. You know who else was broken? Hyacinth. Take a character design that you know nobody's gonna give a fuck about and then make him broken. Gotta sell somehow. That's the state of the gacha space right now, guys. Enfield is a fucking failure. This character is just a cash grab that's overpowered for the sake of selling. HSR is a fucking joke, and ZZZ is a disaster. I don't think, even if the anniversary isn't good, even if the patch isn't good, I feel like this is just gonna be the game that everybody plays anyways. Because all the other ones are legit garbage. But I still think it's gonna be amazing. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.